Have you ever wondered why some parents continue to be deeply respected after their children get married, while others slowly become strangers in their own children's lives? What creates that difference? The truth is, humiliation rarely arrives overnight. It begins with small mistakes repeated over time until the relationship quietly changes forever. Wise parents understand this before it's too late. That's why, immediately after their children's marriage, they begin following a few powerful principles that protect both love and respect. In this video, you'll discover the 5 most important things every parent should do after their child's marriage. Ignore even one of them, and the consequences may last for years. Make sure you stay until the end, because the final point is the one most people overlooked, and it often determines whether a family remains united or slowly falls apart. The first thing wise parents begin doing after their child's marriage is something that looks simple from the outside, but changes everything on the inside. They begin respecting boundaries. This is not because they love their son or daughter less. It is because they understand a truth that many people only realize after suffering. The day your child gets married, your role does not end, but it does change. Many parents never accept this change. They continue entering their children's lives exactly as they did before the marriage. They expect to know every detail, to give opinions on every decision, and to remain the center of every family matter. At first, no one says anything. Everyone smiles. Everyone tries to adjust. But silence should never be mistaken for comfort. Sometimes people stay quiet, not because they agree with you, but because they are trying to protect the relationship. That silence slowly becomes distance. And one day, parents who once spoke to their children every day begin wondering why the phone no longer rings as often. Here is a small story. An elderly father loved his only son more than anything. After the wedding, he visited their home almost every day. His intention was never to interfere. He simply wanted to help. If he saw furniture placed differently, he suggested moving it. If he saw food prepared another way, he offered advice. If he noticed a financial decision, he shared his opinion. Every suggestion came from love. But over time, his son and daughter-in-law stopped sharing things with him, not because they hated him, because they no longer felt free. One day, the father quietly said, "I don't know why my son has changed." The painful truth was, his son had not changed, the space between them had. This is how many relationships begin to weaken, not through one big mistake, but through hundreds of small moments where love quietly crosses the line into control. Real love does not need constant access. Real love does not demand a front row seat in every decision. The strongest relationships are built on trust, not supervision. Many parents fear that giving space means losing their children. But reality often works in the opposite direction. The more freedom you give with sincerity, the more willingly your children return to you. Not out of obligation, but out of love. Ask yourself one honest question. When your child calls you today, do they call because they genuinely miss hearing your voice, or because they feel they have no choice? There is a profound difference between being respected and being tolerated. One brings peace. The other slowly creates emotional exhaustion. As people grow older, they often try to hold tighter to the relationships they fear losing. Yet life teaches a quiet lesson. The tighter you hold sand in your hand, the faster it slips through your fingers. Relationships are much the same. They survive through freedom, not possession. If your married son or daughter makes a decision differently than you would have, pause before correcting them. If they arrange their home differently, let it reflect their own journey. If they make small mistakes, allow life to become their teacher. Every generation learns through experience, just as yours once did. Your wisdom becomes valuable, not when it is forced upon others, but when it is sought. And people seek advice most often from those who never make them feel controlled. Perhaps the greatest gift a parent can give after a child's marriage is not another sacrifice. It is the courage to step back without stepping away, to remain available without becoming overbearing, to stay close without standing in the middle of every moment. Because when healthy boundaries are protected, love has room to breathe. And when love can breathe, respect remains alive for a lifetime. In the next point, you'll discover another quiet mistake that slowly pushes parents away from their own children even when everyone believes they are acting with good intentions. The second thing wise parents begin doing after their child's marriage is something that feels difficult at first but becomes a blessing later. They give the new couple the freedom to build their own relationship. Most parents believe love means staying close, but sometimes staying too close prevents two hearts from becoming close to each other. This is a truth many people discover only after years of regret. When two people get married, they are not simply sharing a house. They are learning how to understand each other's fears, habits, dreams, weaknesses, and silent emotions. This process cannot be rushed. It cannot be controlled from the outside. It must happen naturally. Yet many parents unknowingly interrupt this process. They expect daily updates. They expect every family gathering to be attended. They expect their advice to be followed without question. They expect to remain the highest priority. None of these expectations sound unreasonable, but together, they slowly place pressure on a marriage that is still trying to find its balance. Let me tell you a small story. There was an elderly mother who loved her daughter deeply. Every morning she called to ask what she had cooked, where she was going, what her husband had said, and what plans they had made. She believed this was care. Her daughter answered every call with respect. She never complained. But little by little, her husband began feeling that every private conversation eventually became someone else's conversation. Instead of solving their own disagreements, they started depending on a third opinion. Months later, even the smallest misunderstanding became a family issue. One evening, the daughter quietly told her mother, "I love you, but I need a little space to build my own home." The mother cried. She believed her daughter had become ungrateful, but that wasn't true. Her daughter wasn't asking for less love. She was asking for room to create her own family. Many parents misunderstand this moment. They think freedom creates distance. In reality, freedom creates trust, and trust creates stronger relationships. Think about your own youth. Didn't you also want the chance to make your own decisions? Didn't you hope people would believe in your ability to build your life? Every generation carries the same desire. The faces change. The human heart does not. A marriage becomes stronger when husband and wife learn to solve problems together. Every challenge they overcome without outside interference becomes another brick in the foundation of their relationship. But if someone constantly steps in to rescue them, they never develop that strength. Just as a tree becomes stronger by facing the wind, a marriage becomes stronger by learning to face life's ordinary struggles. Together, wise parents understand something that others often miss. Their child's marriage does not need another manager. It needs two partners who trust each other enough to grow together. That growth requires privacy, it requires patience, and above all, it requires freedom. If your son or daughter does something differently than you expected, don't immediately assume they are making a mistake. Sometimes people learn the most valuable lessons through experience. Advice given at the wrong time often sounds like criticism, but advice offered when it is requested becomes wisdom. There is a quiet beauty in watching your children build a life that reflects their own choices. They may not arrange their home the way you would. They may raise their children differently. They may solve problems in ways that surprise you. That does not mean they love you less. It simply means they are becoming a family of their own. And that is exactly what marriage was meant to create. The parents who remain most respected in old age are rarely the ones who controlled every decision. They are the ones who believed in their children enough to let them stand on their own. Because when you give your children the freedom to build their marriage, You are not losing your place in their lives. You are helping create a home where they will always be happy to welcome you back. In the next point, you'll discover why trying to solve every problem for your married children often creates the very problems you were trying to prevent. The third thing wise parents begin doing after their child's marriage is something that requires great emotional strength. They stop trying to solve every problem. Instead, they learn when to remain silent. This may sound strange. After all, what parent doesn't want to protect their child from pain? For years, that was your responsibility. When they were young, every problem came to you. Every fear, every failure, every difficult decision, you were their guide, you were their shelter. But marriage changes something important. Your child no longer needs someone to make every decision for them. They need the confidence to make decisions together with their spouse. Sadly, many parents cannot accept this change. The moment they hear about a disagreement, they immediately choose a side. The moment they notice a mistake, they rush to correct it. The moment life becomes difficult, they step in to take control. They believe they are saving the relationship, yet many times they are quietly weakening it. Let me tell you a simple story. An elderly father noticed that his married son looked worried. Without asking many questions, he immediately began giving advice. You should do this. Don't listen to that. I've lived longer than you. The son listened with respect. But when he returned home, another argument began. His wife felt that every important decision was being influenced by someone outside their marriage. Soon, even small discussions turned into conflicts. Months later, the father sadly said, I was only trying to help, and he was telling the truth. His intention was never wrong. But good intentions do not always produce good results. Sometimes the greatest help is not giving an answer. It is giving someone the chance to find their own. Life has always been the greatest teacher. Think about your own journey, where your biggest lessons learned because someone explained everything to you, or because life allowed you to experience the consequences yourself. Most wisdom is born from experience, not from instruction. Parents often fear that if they stay silent, their children will think they no longer care. But silence is not the same as indifference. There is a silence that comes from wisdom. It says, I trust you. I believe you can handle this. And if you truly need me, I will always be here. Those words are rarely spoken, yet they are deeply felt. There is another truth that many people overlook. Advice that is not requested often feels like criticism. Even if every word is correct, even if it comes from love, human beings naturally protect their independence. The more someone feels controlled, the less they listen, not because they hate advice, but because they want to feel trusted. The parents who remain closest to their children in old age are often those who speak less, but whose words carry greater weight. Why? Because they never wasted their wisdom on moments when no one was ready to hear it. When they finally spoke, everyone listened. Ask yourself one honest question. Do your children come to you because they know you will understand, or because they know you will immediately begin telling them what they should do? The answer to that question reveals more than most parents realize. There is incredible strength in becoming a safe place instead of becoming a constant instructor. Sometimes your son does not need another solution. He needs someone who listens without judging. Sometimes your daughter does not need another opinion. She needs to know that your love is not dependent on her choices. The greatest gift you can offer your married children is not perfect advice. It is unwavering confidence in their ability to build their own lives, be available, be patient, be wise. But remember, not every silence is weakness. Sometimes silence is the highest form of trust. And when your children know they can seek your guidance without fearing your control, they won't move away from you. They will keep coming back, not because they have to, but because your presence brings them peace. In the next point, You'll discover why the happiest parents after their children's marriage are often the ones who stop making their children the center of their entire world. The fourth thing wise parents begin doing after their child's marriage is perhaps the most difficult of all. They slowly stop making their children the center of their entire world. At first, this sounds cold. Some people may even think it means becoming distant or uncaring, but it means exactly the opposite. Wise parents understand that love becomes healthier when it is no longer driven by emotional dependence. For years, your life revolved around your children. You woke up thinking about them. You worked for them. You sacrificed your comfort for their future. Every success they achieved felt like your own. Every pain they experienced hurt your heart. This is the beauty of parenthood. But there comes a season in life when children are meant to build a home of their own. The painful question is, what happens if parents never build a life beyond that role? Many people spend 20 or 30 years raising their children, but they never prepare themselves for the day those children become independent. When that day finally arrives, the house becomes quiet, the phone rings less often, the routine changes. Suddenly, a person who was busy every hour of the day begins to feel unnecessary. That feeling is dangerous, because an empty heart often begins searching for importance in places where it no longer belongs. Let me tell you a small story. There was an elderly couple whose only son had recently married. The father had retired, and the mother had devoted her whole life to raising their family. Now the house felt silent. Instead of finding new purpose, they spent every day waiting for their son to visit. If he came late, they felt hurt. If he missed a weekend, they believed he no longer loved them. If he spent time with his wife's family, they quietly compared and complained. Nothing their son did was ever enough. One evening, the son looked at his parents with tears in his eyes and said, "I haven't stopped loving you. I just can't be your entire world anymore." Those words were painful, but they were true. No child can carry the responsibility of filling every emotional emptiness in their parents' lives. It is simply too heavy, and over time, that burden turns love into guilt. The strongest families are not built on emotional dependence. They are built on emotional maturity. Wise parents understand that after their children's marriage, they must rediscover themselves. Perhaps there is a hobby they left behind years ago. Perhaps there are old friends they haven't spoken to in decades. Perhaps there are places they always wanted to visit. Perhaps there is faith, learning, service, or personal growth waiting to become the next chapter of their lives. Growing older should never mean waiting for someone else to give your life meaning. Meaning must come from within. There is something deeply peaceful about parents who smile because they have built a fulfilling life of their own. Their children never feel pressured. Their visits become moments of joy instead of obligation. Their phone calls become conversations instead of emotional rescue missions. Ask yourself one honest question. If your children became very busy for the next few months, would your life still have purpose? Or would your happiness disappear with their schedule? The answer to that question reveals whether your heart is living with love or with dependence. True love gives without demanding constant attention. It celebrates another person's growth without feeling abandoned. It understands that distance is not always rejection. Sometimes it is simply life moving forward. Your children will always remember how you made them feel. If every meeting leaves them carrying guilt, they will slowly visit less. But if every meeting leaves them feeling peace, acceptance, and warmth, they will look for every opportunity to return, because every human being naturally moves toward places where they feel emotionally safe. So build a beautiful life that does not depend on anyone else's availability. Read, learn, travel, pray, others. Strengthen your friendships. Take care of your health. Let your children see parents who continue growing instead of only remembering the past. Because the greatest inheritance you can leave your children is not only your wealth, It is the example of a life that remained meaningful, dignified, and full of purpose until the very end. And in the final point, you'll discover the one principle that quietly determines whether parents are remembered with deep respect or only with silent obligation. The fifth and most important thing wise parents begin doing after their child's marriage is this. They stop trying to be the authority in their children's lives and begin becoming a source of peace. This is the point that many parents understand only after years of disappointment. When children are young, authority is necessary. Parents must teach, correct, protect, guide. Without that authority, a child cannot grow with discipline. But marriage changes the nature of the relationship. Your son is no longer just your son. He is someone's husband. Your daughter is no longer just your daughter. She is someone's wife. Their responsibilities have changed. And if parents continue treating them like children, the relationship slowly begins to lose its balance. Many parents never notice this. They believe respect comes from reminding their children, I am your father, I am your mother, I know better because I have lived longer. Those words may win an argument, but they rarely win a heart. Real respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned again and again through kindness, wisdom, and understanding. Let me share a simple story. There were two elderly fathers living in the same neighborhood. The first believed that every family decision should pass through him. His son never bought anything without asking, never made plans without permission, never spoke openly when they disagreed. From the outside, everyone admired the family's discipline. But after a few years, the visits became shorter, the conversations became formal, and the laughter quietly disappeared. The second father lived very differently. Whenever his son visited, he listened more than he spoke. He gave advice only when it was requested. He respected his daughter-in-law as a member of the family, not as an outsider. His children never felt judged in his home. Years passed. One father was obeyed, the other was deeply loved. Ask yourself, which life would you choose? Because obedience born from fear disappears the moment fear disappears. But respect born from love remains. Even when no one is watching, there is a quiet truth about growing older that very few people talk about. As your physical strength decreases, your emotional influence becomes your greatest strength. People may forget your instructions, but they never forget how your presence made them feel. If every visit to your home feels like an examination, your children will eventually visit less. If every conversation feels like criticism, they will begin sharing less, not because they no longer love you, but because every human heart seeks peace. No one willingly walks toward a place where they constantly feel judged. Wise parents understand that their greatest power is no longer control, it is character. Their calmness becomes advice without words. Their patience becomes guidance without pressure. Their kindness becomes a lesson that no speech could ever teach. Think about the people you respect most in your own life. Was it because they controlled everyone around them? Or because they made others feel valued, understood, and accepted? That is the kind of respect that survives generations. Your children do not need perfect parents. They need parents whose love feels safe, parents whose wisdom never humiliates, parents whose presence brings comfort instead of tension. One day, your children will tell stories about you to their own children. The question is, what kind of stories will they tell? Will they remember someone who always needed to be right, or someone whose love made the entire family feel at home? The answer is not decided in one grand moment. It is decided in hundreds of ordinary conversations, quiet choices, and simple acts of grace. So if you truly want to protect your dignity in old age, do not spend your energy trying to control your children's lives. Spend it becoming the kind of parent they naturally want to sit beside. The kind they call without being reminded. The kind they visit without feeling obligated. Because in the end, the parents who are honored the most are rarely the ones who held the strongest authority. They are the ones whose wisdom, humility, and unconditional love made respect grow naturally in the hearts of their children. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy any parent can leave behind. Not wealth, not status, but a family that remembers them with love, gratitude, and honor long after every conversation has ended.